Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have a new dose of revenge stories for you to enjoy. Subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Sit comfortably. Here we go with our first story. My coworker destroyed the PTA. I worked in a state senator's office with a very smart and capable mom. She was the senator's aide, but that was only for part of the year, and I'm fairly certain she didn't really have a career apart from that. But incredibly capable. This lady would always surprise me with the things she'd done, like once she casually mentioned the time she'd gone to some conference in Australia to give a speech, and I was like, wait, what? My favorite thing she told me about was when she destroyed her local PTA. So in the States, we have these organizations called parent-teacher associations. It's a national organization with local chapters for different schools. They exist to foster relations between parents and teachers, but usually just turn into lots of Karens making unnecessary rules, getting upset over stupid things, and generally causing problems. Usually staffed by the type of people who like to create and solve problems just to justify their existence. Sort of like an HOA for schools. Anyway, this lady was no Karen. She didn't create problems, she solved them. She hated the PTA at her children's school. It was always causing problems and had budget problems. When it finally began getting field trips and recess band and wasting fundraising money and membership dues on administrative costs, among other issues, she decided she'd had enough. She joined the PTA, worked her way through its ranks, volunteered at all the events, ran for office, and became president of the PTA. She then used the bylaws and her influence to disband the chapter. The kicker is, then she created her own local club to replace the PTA, one that wasn't influenced by a national parent organization and bureaucracy. She was able to raise tons of money for awesome events, projects, and trips for the students, and ran the club way more effectively than the PTA had ever been. And everyone at the school lived happily ever after. Such a cool lady. And our next story. He must have been a master hacker. Decades ago, I was a restaurant manager. After years of working for TGI McChilibees, I was recruited by a regular to come work at a hotel. I was tired of the big corporate game, and this seemed like a new challenge. Plus, I was tired of trying to take pride in slinging food that, when done perfectly, was still mediocre at best. Right away, it was evident this hotel was a crap show. It turned out the property was under federal receivership as the owner was under indictment for making $500 million in loans to banks that didn't exist for companies that didn't exist. One day, the bellman who drove the shuttle came back from a run super excited to tell everyone the owner was back in the country, and he knew it because the bellman saw the owner let out of the airport in handcuffs by guys with windbreakers that read FBI. I was brought in to update the bars and restaurants, but was not allowed to change anything. The head of housekeeping denied my request to dim the lights in the bar because it looked cleaner. I later found out this is common in some Asian countries, but who the hell in America wants to sit in a bright white box with a bar in a crappy airport hotel while there are a load of hip bars a cab ride away? No one. And that's who was drinking in our bar. No one. I was used to working with people more or less my age and with the same point of view. Now, I was managing long-term union members who gave 0 Fs. Add to that the complete lack of training I was given in how to work in a union environment, and it wasn't pretty. The HR manager who recruited me was leading negotiations with the union for the next contract and didn't want to upset the apple cart, so she refused to enforce any discipline. We had a busser no-call, no-show for a month. We let him go as it was job abandonment. It was grieved, and he was brought back as a banquet porter. WTF. It was a union house, yet when someone no-showed or called out, I was expected to cover. I didn't know this until a few weeks in when I got a call at 3 a.m. saying I had to cover the breakfast shift as both the server and cashier. The controller was convinced everyone was stealing. She walked around all day looking for opportunities, nay, possibilities, that someone might remove a paperclip and screw the hotel. The accountant sat in his office chain-smoking cigarettes. He looked like something out of a movie with his long nails and an ash never less than 3 inches long. His office was always locked, and he was barricaded in his desk by 2 shredders, and they were always going. The banquet manager got arrested for a DUI and convinced the guy who had my job before me to bail him out, No one knew this until one day he no-showed and the cops came by looking for Homie. Turns out the old manager had put his house on the line for this dude, so he was effed. The chef was awful, like out of a book awful. He would buy fish from his steward who was catching them in the bay that was known to be full of PCBs and other contaminants from a few hundred years of pollution and was deemed off-limits for catching food. The Sunday buffet was everything from the last week or so, covered in cream sauces and lemon slices. Didn't matter if it was bad or not, just add more lemon slices. Banquet food came out of the freezer and got put in the hot box hours before the event, yet this clown ran around yelling at everybody like he was Gordon Ramsay. The GM was told his contract wouldn't be renewed a month into my tenure, so he said F it and had me order cases of Dominus and Linge Bage, a fifth-growth Bordeaux that drinks like a first. I learned that wine crap later as I was 25 and considered Miller Genuine Draft Light and Rumpelmintz the pinnacle of fine drinking. All I knew was the crap was spends. He would get off work and sit in the bar knocking back $60 worth of wine, around $100 in today's Skrilla, while I was yelled at for letting him do it. Let him do it? That was my boss. How could I stop him? Needless to say, things weren't working out, so after a few months, we agreed at my 90-day review to part ways. It was an easy decision. I was moving on and happy in my next gig, but still friends with some of the people I worked with who were still there. In fact, I ended up in the wedding of one of them. I was already salty about my time there, as what I was promised and what happened were worlds apart. But then my friend got effed over. She'd landed a long-term contract with the power company. We had some bad storms that damaged the power grid, and they brought people from another market in for 9 months to trim trees, modernize things, whatever it is power companies do in such cases. My friend should have received 1.5% of all their billing. Rooms, food, miscellaneous expenses, all should have had a slight vig that kicked to her as was laid out in her employment bonus program. This would have been huge money as it was dozens of rooms a night over 9 months. When bonus time rolled around, they kicked her a tiny fraction of what she was owed. Instead of close to 6 figures, she barely got a few grand. She was livid, as was her fiancé and I. One night, we were all complaining about it at the bar, watching football. I really hated that place for me, for her, for everyone stuck in that hellhole. A terrible thought entered my brain around halftime and wouldn't go away. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but this would be my night. I drove to the property and parked next door. It was not a well-lit area, so I could sneak over to where my old office was and jump the wall. We always left the slider open to go out and smoke. It was a converted ground floor room, and I knew the banquet manager who shared the office was still on the run, so I should be safe. Once in the office, I looked around trying to decide what to do when I saw the POS computer. This was the 90s, so everything was controlled by this dinosaur from the 80s in the back room that had a plastic box over the keyboard so no one could accidentally hit a key. I grabbed my shirt like I'd seen in the movie so I wouldn't leave any fingerprints and fired it up. This old beast ran MS-DOS as its operating system, and I was enough of a geek to know what to try. I typed in CD / to get to the root directory, then delete. For the vast majority out there who have no idea what that means, wiped out the root directory. I was giddy with that total aw F what did I just do feeling. Not sure if that was enough, and completely surprised I was able to do so, I doubled down and typed in format /C. The damn thing blinked and just started chugging along, effing erased itself. I got the hell out of there and somehow made it home without a DUI. I guess they'd have to reboot from a backup, and that would be a pain in the butt. A year or so later, I ran into some of the hotel peeps in a bar, and they asked if I'd heard about what happened. It turned out that someone hacked the POS system and destroyed it. Because it was so old, experts had to be flown in, and they said the person must have been a masterful hacker, because if they'd done anything less, then it would have been an easy fix. Anything more, and it would have left electronic fingerprints. It turned out that there were no backups. It was towards the end of the month, and all the sales data was gone. The experts couldn't rebuild a system so old, so a new system had to be purchased and installed. That alone ran over 6 figures to do. This also triggered an audit. Remember the controller who was convinced everyone was stealing? Turns out she was. She and the accountant were let out of the hotel in handcuffs. As it turns out, the feds don't like it when you embezzle from a company in their receivership. At that point, it hit me that I could be in some seriously hot water. So once my heart started pumping again, I stopped any sort of coy, "What do you mean, bullcrap?" when asked if I knew anything about it, and shut the hell up. And our last story. Don't wake me up at 6:30 a.m., you rat B-word. This just happened about 20 minutes or so ago. Phone rings, waking me up from a sound sleep. Hello? Very groggy. Somewhat better be dead. Computer, your credit card was used on eBay. Blah, blah, blah spiel. Oh, heck no. You didn't wake me up with this crap and tell me to push 1. It's on. I pushed 1. Enter hopeful scammer from the dark bowels of an Indian warehouse. Scammer. Blah, blah, Visa credit card used for international purchases. I don't have Visa. Me, yawning. Oh dear, what am I going to do? Scammer. Yes, ma'am, it's very sad. We will need to confirm your credit card information. Can you please tell me the name on the credit card? Me, contemplating coffee. Ronald McDonald. Scammer. Ronald McDonald? Is that R-O-N-A-L-D? Getting excited. Me. Yup. Oh me, oh my. Whatever shall I do? Scammer. Yes, ma'am. Can you confirm is your credit card gone and where it's gone from? Me. Beginning to enjoy myself. Oh dear, it is gone. Oh, woe is me. I'm dismayed. Oh me, oh my. Scammer. Can you please tell me where you lost your credit card? Beginning to drool at this point. Me. It must have been at White House Burgers. Gosh darn. Scammer. Practically bouncing off his chair. Yes, ma'am. That's it exactly. Can you tell me any strange purchases made on your credit card? Me. Well, there was that call yesterday saying someone had bought an AK-47. I was wondering about that as I already have one. Scammer. Panting from excitement. Yes, ma'am. Voice in the background filled with disgust, speaking in their dialect, something that must translate to, "You idiot," followed by a slapping sound. Silence. Dial tone. Just when it was getting good, too. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.